begin the meeting at 6:35, I guess. Joe Rukowski is, told me he couldn't be here, he was on business. Haven't heard from Emery, but he could roll in at any time. All right, so we'll hear from our project managers.
Well, the purpose of this meeting was to discuss other items we wanted to...
Other alternatives.
Alternatives to put into the project. So, I haven't gotten any emails. John Sullivan came up with a couple pieces of equipment. But other than that, that's really all I've heard. So I don't know if people have any things they want to bring up.
Bill didn't make any suggestions?
He was satisfied.
We are gonna it's not something really that it would be for this committee or for this level, but Bill said, hey, can we put another gate in the fence over by the playground so that if somebody's over there, they don't have to walk all the way around?
Right.
Sure, we can do that. That's not, we were kind of this group, we were looking at larger scale items. So we do have a list of things that we are doing that we can let you know about, but really haven't heard anything new. There's obviously the electric car charging stations. That wasn't part of the project. What was part of the project was to provide some empty conduit to run over to that location. But now, the way I'm understanding it is the cost of the charging stations themselves, the cost of the installation of those, the cost of setting up a VPN to be able to charge people for using the electricity. The idea is that Chris wants to incorporate that into the project.
Right, Chris says if we're doing this to get lead points for the school, then it will come out of the money for the school, because it's all one project, is what he told me.
Okay, then that's fine. We just have to make sure what we're doing is correct, and so
Yes.
we just need some coordination to...
And Adam and I can work on that,
Well, if you send me, that
and we can,
little summary that you made up, just email it to me, and then I can get it off to everybody else.
no problem.
Okay, the other items, we did talk last time. So the gate we talked about, that's $1,400. Additional cedar edging. So around in the playground area, there's some transitions from grass to sand, and there wasn't a transition strip of any kind. And then what was specified was a metal band. And then the contractor came back and said, hey, in a playground situation, maybe that's a metal band isn't the way to go. We can put in a cedar strip to kind of separate the two areas. It's the cost to do that and install that is $10,248.
What was the metal strip gonna cost?
Don't know. The next item is adding some tack boards. Originally we started off by saying, hey, let's just maybe put on some additional tack strips, like a 2-inch tack strip, so they can put up some artwork or put up some additional things in the classrooms. We got a price, and then the committee met and said, no, let's add some more things or look to what might be a good idea to add. And so design team re-looked at not just tack strips, but adding tack boards
And marker boards.
And so we have a cost for that of $17,868. The big item that we talked about before was the circulation path around parent pickup. Originally it was parents just picking up here, and there's a little bump out in front that has a handicap ramp in it. And what happens is all these parents pick up and then they edge up a little bit and they edge up a little bit. But what's happening is people are running right into that little bump out. And if we were to take that off and pull the ramp into the sidewalk a little bit more, that way people could just drive a little right straight through. John Sullivan likes it because it's easier to plow. So that would be the change out front. The other idea is that half the students were being picked up with only using the front, and that worked, or before they got into this building, they were being picked up in the back, and that worked. So if we're doubling the population, we could have, and Cheryl will let you, figure out exactly how it's gonna work, but we were thinking that, okay, half the kids, the little kids could come out to the front, or the older kids can go out to the back, and so the problem is that we have some handicap parking spots right up against the sidewalk, and to kind of separate those from the driving lanes, there's some bump outs in the, of the sidewalk. And so to kind of slice those off, move the handicap spots into the parking area, so relocating some signs, it would allow for an easy transition for then parents to come by, pick up, queue up, pick up, and then drive out. So that was the original pricing that we had asked for. There were some other things too. It's a sidewalk, add a sidewalk outside of the pump house, so that goes to the storage room, because right now there was just a stoop there without really a sidewalk leading to it, so John Sullivan had requested that. Trying to think what else was part of that original proposal, but now we've added in a sidewalk from the cafeteria door to the rear canopy, added a sidewalk from one of the connecting corridors between the existing and the addition, and it kind of goes out to the playground area. There's something about the metal stairs. I don't know if that's coming off the...
Another concrete sidewalk connection to the metal egress stair behind the stage.
Which is about this long.
Yeah, it's small.
Very small.
And that's about...
Well, then changing the asphalt to the concrete.
and changing material of what hasn't been installed yet, which isn't a whole lot, but, so changing that. So the price to do that is $47,174. We've also have a credit that has been proposed from the contractor for the fire hydrant that's over by the sidewalk there. In talking to Chris about it, his feeling, and we'll let him, if he comes in late, he can speak to it, or his feeling was that he'd rather not change anything if the contractor offers a decent credit. If it's okay with the fire department the way it is, don't change it. And so that credit was $5,375. What we don't have yet is the price for the charging stations, so that as we
I have some of them right here.
Yeah, but we need some of the costs from the contractor.
Installation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
installation
installation.
cost and some of the other things. But other than that, I don't know if there's anything I'm missing, Christian, that there's really nothing else that came up out of the discussion from our last meeting, that things to add into the building. We mentioned John Sullivan wanted to get a lift. Again, in talking to Chris about that, he thought it's too much money for the use that you get out of it. It's cheaper to rent one once a year and change the high light bulbs if you need to go through on a yearly basis than it is to spend $10,000 for a machine, keep it, liability, everything else. The other items that he did want were a pallet jack. It's about $300, give or take, and a leaf blower. Again, $700 to $1,500 for a really nice one, or cheap one, $300. It's something that we could have purchased out of our FF&E budget without coming back to you and asking for additional funds.
No, John Sullivan wants those, or Chris usually wants those.
John Sullivan.
Okay.
Will you be putting anything around that hydrant?
No.
So I'm concerned that it's gonna remain as a potential hazard, because kids are gonna be walking, running around that. Is there anything that you know of from past experience that can be?
You can put bollards on either side of it. You can, I mean, I don't know. Right now, we don't have anything planned to go. Certainly, it's not that you couldn't put something there. I mean, one idea that we talked about was just creating some sort of a planter there, but then it's a maintenance issue. then it makes it more difficult to clear the snow and just, or you're making this planter there not because it was a good idea to put it there, but because you're trying to cover something up.
It's not the looks of it that is concerning, it's just that the fact that there is something in the middle of the sidewalk
It's
at
an
an
attractive
elementary school.
nuisance.
Hmm?
It's an attractive nuisance.
Yeah. I mean, it's a safety primarily.
Yeah, I don't know,
We need to talk to the fire chief about it. I mean, I would hate.
What do other schools do?
I haven't run into this issue before.
Generally speaking, you can't really block a
Right.
fire hydrant.
Right.
I didn't write an email, but in my years of participating in the Granby PTO and the parent-teacher organization, whenever we get to spend money that we raise, we generally would go for technology. And I don't remember if it's in the budget or in the list already for, like, I know we have smart boards, which the PTO purchased and things like that, but what about laptops?
we have a whole technology budget as part of the overall project.
Right?
And we haven't expended that entire amount yet.
Yeah.
But there's laptop carts, there's printers, there's projectors, there's
And
built-in.
laptops for all the kids?
So we're gonna be one-to-one computing in grades 3 through 6. So every day when students in grades 3 through 6 enter the building and go to their homeroom, they will get a Chromebook that's theirs, and
Oh,
that they will
great.
travel throughout the school with. So they'll go to the media center, they'll go to their art class, they'll basically learn the skills of technology, a one-to-one device. In kindergarten through second, there'll be designated Chromebook carts in the classrooms, shared at the grade levels. I think one per grade level or 2 per grade level. But so that gives teachers the opportunity and flexibility to have the whole class on computers or a small group on computers, to have a center of computers. So there is an abundance of student technology that's embedded in the project that we're really thrilled about.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been my only suggestion.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be adding more to it, just the VPN, it's under $1,000, but setting that up, it will come out of that line item. I think once people move into the building and start living here and understanding what doesn't necessarily work or what might be beneficial, we can purchase more items or come back to the group and see, hey, this is a need, or it's identified. Certainly, the older students have been in the addition for a semester or almost a semester, and there were some minor things like a step stool to get up to some of the high storage that the teachers can't reach. It's good to have all this extra storage, but they can't reach it. So instead of standing on a chair, a couple stools, or so it's pretty minor stuff. We haven't, as things have come up, Bill has raised them, and we've taken care of it through the construction process. And Bill and Helen and Cheryl and everyone we went through the furniture for a year before technology, so it's been thoroughly vetted.
At this point in time, there is a bit remaining in the FF&E budget, and so as we get to the very end,
A little bit.
then we'll balance out that need for those step ladders to reach the high storage, and whether or
There's
not
about 10,000 left.
Yes, whether or not there's, enough for reading chairs, which was something, but I think, again, the decision was what's missing, once everybody really moves in and starts using the building, what are the highest needs?
And this committee did agree to spend over and above our original budget for FF&E, but we were given a directive to stay within that amount. So as we've gotten towards the end, we've kind of kept a list like these reading chairs and said, all right, let's hold off on that until we really see how things come out.
End panels for Anne Marie's desk, some little things. that we probably will wanna take care of. But I guess, yeah, just it's a matter of public record. Stiff Fura Associates was our FF&E consultant on this project, and they worked really hard with the budget and have done a lot to kind of make sure as things changed around a little bit that we got credits back for things. So we're in a good position.
Want to take a tour?
Yes.
Well, I got one question.
Vote on these, or what happens to these?
Yeah.
Well, I need to have motions on stuff if we're spending.
Are we
money.
doing it all at one, or are you giving us one big fat number, or do we get to ask about questions? I thought we were here to vote on something. Or
It's up to you guys, whatever you want to do.
You just
You
writing a
wanna
check? and
vote
we
on
don't
it,
have to-
or-
For all those things you listed, the cost was 47,000? Is that what you're saying?
No.
No, that's just the traffic, that's just the traffic.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's over $100,000.
Well, these are just things that I have the prices that came in. These aren't items that necessarily I would have brought to you, I would have gone to Chris about, but because you guys had requested
Yep.
some additional things, I don't have any additional things, this is just what I have.
Yes.
Can you write down on the board behind you what these items are and the dollar amounts?
I don't mind
You
here.
can, yeah, but you're the only one.
Oh, I'm the only one.
If you want to write on the board, that's okay.
No, we did that enough last night.
In the box.
Well, there's a gate for $1,500.
Piece of paper?
Christian, make sure those are my erase.
Can I have a piece of paper?
Yes, you may.
You're not furnishing us any tonight. No agendas, no nothing.
Wild West.
Oh, we don't have to be that deep. Oh, an architect, you must be an
I'm an
architect.
architect, yeah.
135, going out of order.
Right in the hallway.
6, 8. Isn't that 120?
Whatever, right.
120 R2.
Which means we revised it twice. One's got 127 on it?
These are just part of the
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
So it's already part of the budget.
No, these are changes.
47, 174.
But it's all things that this committee or the school-based committee talked about. So the TAC boards were the teacher committee. The circulation was this committee. The sidewalks, we talked about that last time. Yeah.
134.
17,000.
It's like everywhere.
And some more whiteboards too, so it's a combination. Got you.
Just like solidified.
Yeah.
No whiteboard.
Yep.
Save from- Save. Whiteboard.
135
Oh, the cedar I did.
is the gate.
Cedar.
I thought he said it was,
That's not something that.
2,048. You said
I
10,000.
thought it was 17. I got all my numbers.
I misheard him on that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
No.
Whatever we salvaged was worth.
Both isn't a bad idea, because if you're marketing.
That it?
That's it.
But you have a how do we
And that's what I-
anticipate the credit? Because there's also a credit for the fire. Right.
Pretty much everything.
5,375 credit.
For the fire hydrant credit.
Only if we accept it. Did we have to do something
Is
to
that
that?
negotiable?
Well, the problem is that it could cause more problems than,
I don't- We can't do that until the fire chief says yes or no, right?
fix it. Well, we didn't know where we were gonna put it either, like, that would have been a good spot without making a mess.
Well, the fire chief has already signed off on occupancy of the building. It's been there. Certainly, we could go back to him and just say, hey, wasn't where the original plan was, but we want to leave it there, or whatever you decide to do.
If we say we want it moved, what was the cost associated with that?
Well, technically, there would be, the contractor put it in the wrong spot,
Right,
so there shouldn't really be any cost.
right.
The downside, though, is where you're gonna put it, and, sometimes the fix is worse than the problem. The sidewalks, getting them to match and look like the previous sidewalk that was poured, 8 months ago may not look exactly the same. They could,
You'd have to move or add pipes.
It's a significant amount of work to dig down because you have a hydrant, you have valves on all three sides. It's a lot of work.
Has anybody done any thinking about where it would go?
To its original.
So it was originally designed where it is today, and those are the plans that the fire chief signed off on, and that was the original intent, was where it is located now. During the addenda process, or no, once we were in construction, we changed some other site aspects, and while we were changing that, they also shifted where the fire hydrant was supposed to go. They shifted it about 6 feet closer to the parking lot in a diagonal, maybe 8 feet. Not that far from where it is now. So as Tim mentioned, there are a lot of valves down there. So to cut through the sidewalk, move that fire hydrant only 6 or 8 feet seems like a lot of trouble for maybe not that much gain. So we also looked into putting planters between the fire hydrant and the parking lot. And so that's another option that is in front of us. But I think that Chris Martin feels and that the costs of saving $5,375 to put towards some of these changes that already have been approved might be more worthwhile than adding more garden beds that, as Tim said, will be another place to maintain. But I think that's a question for the committee, and those are the options, basically.
Well, I don't think it's a safety concern, in my opinion. I mean, it's a fire hydrant. We have kids, they're everywhere, and kids have to watch where they're going.
I know,
They
but
run around, and they don't run around like crazy. Teachers make kids walk in lines and in order, and
Fire hydrants are not a usual thing at Granby, though.
I don't know if fire hydrant is a usual thing. How many places do we know where the fire hydrant is smack in the middle of some sidewalk?
Right. It's not really, I mean, we can go look at it, but the true sidewalk and the true path from the door, if I could draw a diagram, it misses the fire hydrant barely. Now the sidewalk extends into a bulb, which basically protects the parking area from the bus drop-off. So that's why the sidewalk kind of pulls out into this large bulb there, and that's why it feels like it's in the middle of the sidewalk. I totally agree with you, Emery, that it when you look at it, it does feel like it's in the center of the sidewalk, but in terms of a direct circulation path, it is at the corner of it. Not ideal. But again, I think it's a question for the committee, and we should go out there and take a look and see is it worth moving it 8 feet here? Is it worth putting in some planters, or is it worth getting a
I don't recall
$5,000
third graders
credit?
being familiar with the concept of a direct circulation path.
Right.
Do you think someone will get hurt on it? I mean, what are you thinking? Because I don't.
Somebody could get hurt on it. It's first of all, aesthetically, it's not where it's supposed to be. But I'm more concerned about somebody getting hurt. And we always assume the best, but somebody trips and falls on that, and it's not going to be a pleasant conversation to have. Because that's a wide sidewalk where kids can run, can do things, and kids are kids. And we don't need to really imagine multiple cases of it. Just one kid trips and then falls onto it. It's not really a good thing to have.
All right, do we want to look at that now and then come back and we'll address these, or what's the deal?
I think let's go through the list. If there's things we can knock off the list, and then go take a look.
All right, so tack boards, Cheryl, you have information on that?
Just that it came from the teachers committee, the work committee here, to add additional tack boards and whiteboards.
Is that a bulletin board?
Yes.
it's like
So that's a whiteboard, that's a tap.
Oh, I see.
surface.
Okay.
Right. And part of it is to keep things off the walls.
My school's built in 1960, so.
Keep things out of the
Older than me.
walls.
He holds things. He doesn't tack them.
But isn't there still the fire rule over fire chief not wanting to see a lot of paper in the hallways?
There's a
Is
percentage.
an issue, so is that gonna go over that percentage?
No, particularly because our building is sprinklered. That's when it really,
Okay.
if you don't have a sprinklered building, then it's much more
Okay, so that
restricted.
changes it, okay.
Yeah.
I remember that was always an issue before.
And where would these, like for example, where would they go?
Different classrooms,
All right.
all of them, everywhere. But yeah, basically within the classroom.
Not the hallways.
Well, we already have some in the hallways.
Right, but not
Hallways are
additional.
set.
Was this discussed at all in the original specs for the building?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think it was strips they were talking about.
we provided a certain number of square feet of tack surface and whiteboard in each classroom, and just as the schools used it, they want more.
This is one of those that you've moved in, you've lived in it, gee, wouldn't it be nice if requests.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember some of the casework has tack surface on those big
The doors,
doors, so it's not like there wasn't any in the rooms,
Right.
but,
I think what the teachers are looking for is places to display student work, because the tax spaces that are on the storage units really are more like informational. It's like,
Right.
you know, where you put the directions of the day
Yeah.
and, you know, that kind of stuff. And because they're pretty small, where they're looking for places to display student work.
That's kind of
'cause
a big
that's-
thing in elementary school.
Especially at elementary school, yeah.
These items still reimbursable, or are we beyond that with all these items?
some are reimbursable, some aren't. Anything having to do with site work is non-reimbursable, so it's 100% on you.
Yeah, but I mean,
This would come out of FF&E, or,
Tack boards?
No.
no, it's going up.
This would come out of our
Considered basic.
contract with Fontaine.
okay.
Not reimbursable.
I don't think so. I think we're beyond it.
Would tack boards be reimbursable?
They might be.
I doubt it.
It would be hard, see, the MSBA looks to say, is it a design issue? Is it a third-party request like the fire marshal, or is it a owner change? The only one that the MSBA would really reimburse you is when you say it's the architect's fault, they missed it. And you blame it on the architect, and they hate that, but that's what we always do, to get you as much money back as we can. But that's the only way we could try and get reimbursement on it.
So I'm gonna say probably not, but not necessarily.
Right.
Yeah. The circulation zero
And what
would
is
be
that again?
reimbursable. That's the
Flow.
pickup,
Oh, yeah, that's correct, junk out there.
especially because it's rework. That's another thing they don't participate with.
I have a question on that. So initially, when we planned this, obviously we planned with the intent of making it the best way to circulate, right? And then it didn't work. So how do we know that this is gonna solve the problem that we are seeing right now?
I would imagine it's kind of like the last time. It was the best intention, and at least now we have the hindsight of half the school being occupied and seeing the number of people that come in on a daily basis. But other than that, there's no guarantee. You know, a lot more parents decide next year to pick up their kids than this year. Things could change. I don't know.
Could we blame Christian for that too? He was bad.
So what is it gonna do exactly? What type of circulation change is it providing?
It's knocking out the bump out in the sidewalk, and so cars can more easily just queue up and just keep pulling around out front. And similarly, out back, the same thing. They're taking one of those bump outs that protrudes into the parking lot area, make it easier for cars to circulate around, queue up, and then pick up students and pull out.
Also, the plowing, it is a lot easier for the plowing, which why the superintendent, and I remember conversations about that when we were designing the parking lot. Of
Right.
course, that's really important, is the clearing of the snow and the ice and everything, so.
Well, I mean, and you think about it, you have a very limited number of people who are doing that.
Right,
John.
right, yeah, right, exactly.
And so, you know, you want it, there's no islands in the parking lot for that reason. It makes it easier for him to push the snow and clear it. These bump outs, yeah, he's got to go around. It's more difficult. But really, the purpose of it was to make the circulation path for parent pickup easier.
We're guessing.
Yes.
Well, no, we're not guessing, we've been using it, and it's frustrating.
We're guessing this isn't any better.
Oh,
They're
Well-
guessing this isn't any
See what's
better.
gonna happen next year.
Well, we're not
Oh.
adding queuing space. We're not adding
Right.
parking lot. We're not doing any of those things.
No, so
Right.
You're trying to work within the confines of your site, and it's certainly going to make it better. Is it going to solve all your problems? I don't know.
And I think that the district is well aware that if the next step doesn't work, we are in the process now where we're still in the project and we can make changes. So that is a plus of being in a phased situation. You got to try it out and see how it worked. There can be other ways to handle it in terms of staggering, in terms of,
Right.
you know, Bill and Cheryl, I know, have been thinking about it. Some of these things can be addressed from an administrative and training of parents standpoint. So if we fall into that category again, there are other things that could be.
Eventually, we're gonna run out of money.
Well, administrative changes are habit changes, and that's hard, sometimes harder, but hopefully it will come to that.
So parent pickup has become just a bigger thing?
It's a bigger thing.
Wow,
I
that's.
think it's gonna get bigger, don't you? It's gonna get
Well,
bigger.
I just don't see why this can't make it work from what you've done already. Just make it work. Why put more money into something that maybe will look a little better, but is it gonna solve the issue? I would go with what you presently have until we see how it goes. That's what I would think, but.
Well, one of the ideas is to make these changes before the final pavement is done, while the contractor's still here. I think once the contractor is gone, you're gonna be a lot less likely to take this on.
But if you stagger the grades, would that solve the problem?
Not
With the current
entirely.
way?
No.
Because people come early, they wait?
Right. They wait, they line up. The problem is that even just with East Meadow being in the front part of the building, they were backing up to 202, you remember? So getting rid of the bump out would hopefully get them to move more into the circle. And that way we can train parents to pull up, we put the little cone out with the kid with the flag, and then walk students. And I think that also, having the youngest students dismiss from the front, and then the older students dismissing from the back like they had last year or at the beginning part of this year, parents are used to that. And just being able to get as many cars lined up is critical. 5 or 6 cars being able to be added to the line may mean that we're not backed up on 202 or we're not backed up to the high school.
Which way is circulation? Do they come in this way?
Yeah.
And
So
they don't go-
if the
they don't-
circulation was the other way, wouldn't that provide more room for people to come in and not back them up into 202?
That would be terribly confusing, and that's, when you
I
come in, you
think,
come
I
in.
think the problem is that intersection, because you'd be taking a left turn, would become dangerous. So that's why we've got it so that you're just taking a right on your way out and the traffic's not crossing each other.
Right, they're not crossing each other, right.
And they don't go into parking places,
Well, that's the question,
why don't
I
they go into
think.
parking places? I don't
Right.
understand
I think
why there's a parking-
I think some are now, but they
Right.
used to be backing up into 202, and so some would be on the side street.
Well, one of
Now
the-
that they pull into the parking spot, so they don't really go onto the 202.
No, they don't go in the parking, we're trained not to do that because we don't want the children going out into the parking lot, you don't get out of your car. The idea is you just line up and you drive, and this is how it works, and it does work. It works, and then the fact that it's gonna be split up so that at least the front is just gonna stay the front and the back, that makes sense. But that bump out is, it is a nuisance and annoying, and certainly the plow will probably just wreck it anyway. So, I don't know, I line up in this queue 2-3 days a week, and what they're saying makes sense.
Have parents forgotten that we have bus service or something?
Well, I live in South Hadley
I know
Falls, so
that.
you
I
see,
understand that.
there's a lot of kids who's come from 2 families.
Right.
And I'm only picking up my kid half the week. But so let's just take into account that 50%, maybe 40% of the school population has divorced parents. Well, then, or grandparents picking them up. So, really, whatever makes it clear and easy and efficient. And it does seem that removing those bump outs would make it more efficient. They won't allow the children to
But
run
you
out.
said
They have
that,
to
but you
stay on
said
the
you don't know that for
sidewalk.
certain.
Is that what we're talking about?
That's the issue.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball. Right now, it works, it's working right now with half the students in the building. It worked when half the students were in the building, but they were in the back half, so they picked up there. So it seems that it would make sense. The other thing is, yes, we're calling this a circulation change, or, that's the bulk of it, but there's other stuff in here. Making sidewalks concrete versus asphalt. Adding sidewalks that didn't exist before.
Right.
There's other things in here too. So the bulk of it and the genesis of it was this idea of circulation through the site.
Is adding sidewalks sidewalks or similar stuff, are they reimbursable?
No.
Site work is not
Site work is not.
Yeah, I mean, it is up to 8% of the project, you're well beyond that, you know, at this point.
But Joe, it's one of the things he said to me, because he couldn't be here tonight, but was that he strongly thought we should have, instead of the asphalt places that we have, to put in concrete sidewalks.
Yeah, this 47,000 includes a number of different things. It's not just the bump out we're talking
Correct.
about.
Right.
What are the other things that are in there?
I'll go through that list again, but it's
Okay,
the
yeah.
adding making the sidewalks that haven't been poured or put down in asphalt to making them concrete.
That's the one we talked about last meeting, and I think everybody was in agreement on.
Okay, then we're adding a sidewalk from the cafeteria to the canopy out back. It's pretty short, but that's gonna be concrete sidewalk. Changing a sidewalk that hasn't been in place yet, it's very short, from the egress stairs, from asphalt to concrete. Adding a sidewalk in the playground area, from the connector between the addition and the renovation area to the playground area, adding a sidewalk, and that's going to be concrete. Changing a sidewalk that goes to Maximilian Drive from the back of the school that was asphalt, and it's going to be concrete. Adding a sidewalk by the water pump house building. There's a storage room in that, and it has a concrete stoop, and then it was just going to be grass. And we're adding a sidewalk to that, which is now going to be concrete.
Those things all seem to me to be much different than this bump out thing.
They are. There's just site work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's, and I don't have much of a problem actually with all these other sort of things. It seems like it's part of the design, which really wasn't completely thought through, and now it is. This is a little, but the bump out thing is different.
And for the record, my primary objection is not related to the cost or anything. We stated a problem, and main question that I was asking, whether or not we are addressing the problem. And when we say we're hoping so, that's not giving me, all the comfort. That's why I was insisting. Otherwise, if it's gonna help, that's good. If other things are included, which, I'm glad you asked, I'm good with that too.
Well, these changes will definitely help. I mean, I want to make that clear. Like, it's been reviewed by design professionals. I mean, we're not just taking a stab in the dark. The bump out here was put in the priority was on pedestrian safety. So we had more bump outs throughout these parking lots where the emphasis was really on pedestrian safety. And then we balanced that with the needs of DPW and plowing and maintenance. And so we reduced a lot of those. We took all of the islands out of that large parking lot, gone. So they can just cruise through there with the plow. This remained, and we were a little reluctant to take it away because it is a primary pedestrian access to the building, but I think that Tim's right, that circulation is going to work out much better. The queuing can start over here instead of having to stop there. So it will significantly improve the problem. Back there we had all parking, and we had designed it more for delivery drop-off, specifically by the shipping and receiving room. And that's why we had those series of bump outs out there. We had some handicap parking, and then we had a turnout area for that shipping receiving area. I think the idea of turning that area into a drop-off area instead of a handicap parking and shipping receiving area is a great idea. And that will, again, significantly reduce the problem. You'll half the number of people that could be waiting out here. So that's going to take some reworking, but by turning that into a drop-off area, again, will
this drop-off area be used primarily by the first, second, third graders?
Pre-K, K, 1, 2.
Okay. Those are not pedestrians. Those are little kids.
Right.
And so I don't think we want to cover up the fact that pedestrian safety actually means little kid safety.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that, again, I'm not worried about, by removing that bump out, I still think this is going to be a safe area, particularly for drop-off, and by not having that possibility for collisions at that intersection, and you'll be on the passenger side of the drawers as kids are coming out. And I think it was really to make sure that parking area had a safe way to the front door, which will still exist. There'll still be a striped path. There'll still be a handicapped entrance to the sidewalk, it'll just be closer to the building than it is today.
And two different things tonight. This bump out and the fire plug. And gut reaction is that doesn't look safe. And there are lots of reasons why you can say, well, maybe it is, and we have other things to make things safe, but I don't like the idea of having things which on the surface don't look safe. As if you have any little kids, things that don't look safe aren't safe.
But the first premise was to make this a safe pedestrian place.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the bump out
Yeah.
looks safe, or bump
No,
out
it was
does
to
not
be-
look
to be-
safe?
To be safe. To be safe for traffic and so on, and not worry about plowing an issue, which is a few times a year versus kids coming in and out of here 180 times a year.
Yeah.
And other times.
Right, plowing something you gotta do with whatever it is, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we shouldn't have to fix it because of plowing.
Right,
which is-
but what we're
you
saying
know,
is, and I think what John's saying, this is safer if we get rid of the bump out, or if it's at least not any less safe.
Can we explain to Cheryl and I do know how this works. So when the kids come out and the cars are all lined up, they're not allowed to just run down the sidewalk. They stay in the front of the building. And then the lucky people who are in front, their children are called Mrs., so-and-so, your child, and their child is put right into their car. They're not allowed to step off the sidewalk. They're not allowed to do that, period. And it's very controlled, and there's people out there monitoring, and then when that child gets in the car, they drive away. Then the next car comes, and it's their turn. So do you see, the children aren't like running out looking for cars and going out in the parking lot. It's extremely controlled. And how it works is that there's this continuous movement. So the bump out makes you stop, and then, oh, you got too close to the bump out, now you gotta back up a little bit because you gotta go around it like this. I think if you saw it in practice, you would understand why it's so much more.
What I don't understand
Better.
is, if this is the case, why the original design said that this was a safety feature to put in this bump out. Those two things are not compatible. One of them is completely wrong.
Except I don't think they realized the amount of
It's not
traffic that
black
was.
or white.
I
They
think
didn't
it's
realize the
shades
amount
of
of
gray,
traffic.
John.
Exactly,
I think
it's not
that
black or white.
the intent was to have these bump outs for a traffic calming measure and to help identify where pedestrians would be crossing the parking lot. It turns out that traffic calming measure has actually turned out to be a nuisance and is therefore creating more problems than it's solving.
Nuisance to the first graders or nuisance to their parents?
All of the
Nuisance
above.
to everybody, the staff, the parents, and the children, all the people that use the building.
But basically, we're saying if we get rid of the bump out, which I just looked at,
Yeah.
it's not gonna hamper safety. Safety
No.
measures are not gonna be an issue.
No.
And, if somebody really wants to come out of the office, crossing the line and get into their car over there, well, more power to them. But yeah, I haven't been here for, dismissal, but I've been to the elementary school in East Long Meadow. It's
And
like-
all the schools do this.
Yeah,
This
they-
is not unique to
But
Granby.
they call
All
it,
the
actually, I
schools-
don't know about you guys, but they call the kids out individually.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, well, it's done handed.
So it's like they literally say, okay, John LeBera,
Yeah.
please come out. John LeBera goes out, goes to his parents' car, and so it's very, the customs and the actual system set up to manage, ensure the safety, but.
It's controlled and it goes slow, but it's efficient and it's safe.
I just for a point of order here, this doesn't have anything to do with what anybody's saying is, but, when we're done, we still talk about Cedar and the gate, and I'm concerned about just taking the votes and getting things decided. So I just want to say, we can keep talking about this now, when we come back to it, hopefully we won't have more discussion.
Right, and just take a vote, right?
Can
So,
can you guess what portion the bump out is the sidewalks in this $47,000?
No,
Not really.
Don't even want to
unfortunately.
take a guess.
no.
You wouldn't want to say 50%?
Come on, Tim.
yeah, give or take 25% of 50%.
Yeah.
Well, I guess here's a question, how
How was the estimate
is
arrived at?
is the number
How
of
did you arrive
real
at that?
feet
I
of
don't know.
added
That's not a good
sidewalk in
question.
that?
For all this.
Nothing,
We're gonna pay for it.
okay, it's
They
just
don't
the
break
lump
out
sum.
They're not paying
Okay.
for it. I think that's the same.
They do a great job building, but they don't do a great job with the paperwork.
Enumerating.
Yeah.
But remember, we have to there's a bunch of stuff thrown in here, so. Any more on, what we're calling circulation, but the changes to the traffic sidewalks and stuff? Okay, Cedar.
Cedar edging. So as Tim mentioned, this is in the lower kid area playground, pre-K through grade 2. And it's an area between a path and lawn to the side. And so we're just putting a break between those, and again, thinking of child safety, we wanted to go with it's a thicker cedar edging, a board instead of a very thin piece of metal that's separating those two materials.
And the cedar's more expensive than the board?
It is more expensive, but in this case, seems worthwhile.
That's definitely, to me, that would be a safety thing, because a kid falls down on a piece of metal, that's splitting the skin, that's not a bruise.
Why can't you use a plastic strip?
Over time, the plastic between the cold and the sun would deteriorate a lot quicker than anything else.
Wouldn't the cedar deteriorate too, though?
Not as much as plastic.
Not as, right, take longer.
Take a lot longer, particularly if you did a staining job on cedar. You can make them last a long time.
Again, this is the recommendation of our landscape architects from Berkshire Design Group.
Any other questions on cedar? Comments? Gate.
Pretty straightforward. We have a storage shed in the pre-K area of the
We do not
playground.
have a storage shed.
We do not have a storage shed. We have a pad for a future storage shed in the pre-K area playground. And so we are adding a gate in the fence so that teachers from the K through 2 playground can get access to that storage pad.
The shed from West Street was supposed to come over.
Fell apart.
It wasn't worth
Further
trying to maneuver it. It would fall apart.
So if we
So
didn't have a gate, the teachers would have to jump the fence?
Yes.
Or could we just get a pool ladder?
Or a trampoline. Yes, exactly.
No, they could just take the classroom.
One of my colleagues grew up adjacent to East Line Middle High School, and there's a fence all the way through, but she could have walked all the way around, but instead her parents put up a pool fence, and she would climb over the fence every day on a pool ladder. But I'm not suggesting that. All right, any comments on the gate or questions? Okay.
So just typically, the gate type of, those are the kind of the typical things that we go through, and again, we don't typically bring them to this committee for, you guys put enough time into it without going over every little detail, but because this is what we had priced and ready to go, we put it all out here.
Okay. Do we want to vote for all 4 items together, or do you want to vote for all 4 items separately?
I'd like to make 5 items.
Okay.
Make the bump out a separate item from the rest of the circulation stuff.
Well, let's get to that when we get to the circulation then. Okay.
Although we don't know the cost. You don't know the cost of that, the breakdown of the
Well,
cost.
we can get
Do
the
we want-
cost. I mean,
Do you guys want to take a quick look at stuff before we do it or not?
Yes,
No.
yes,
No.
yes, yes.
Be educated.
All right. You don't have to go.
Traffic calming doesn't have to be physical raised elevation. It could be a rumble strip.
Have Cheryl park her car here. Let's have Cheryl park her car right here. Make that the parking spot for this. Make that parking spot for the superintendent.
Put the sign, principal parking.
Yeah, and let her park there every morning.
Superintendent.
Superintendent parking.
The problem is too, human nature is that people
We're going to make the superintendent parking spot for school right there. Every morning you come in and you park right there.
Okay.
It's going to solve that whole
Solve
quick turn in.
everything?
It'll solve everything.
Okay, that's great. Yep, that happens in every school, I think.
Yeah.
Change behaviors the hardest thing.
It is.
Yeah, that looks nice. And that big push in the
You go like that. Unless you want to hang out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you do. Right. So maybe the buses have to change it.
Having watched it, Yes?
just so folks understand, this where it's carved out right here where the pavement ends, so that's going to get a curve on both sides with a little dirt strip in the middle or a lawn strip in the middle. But this is bus drop off on this side, and then that's car access on that side. And by having the two curbs along this long island here, that allows the bus to pull over, open their doors while cars can still pass on that side of the driveway. So the buses pull up here, and then that bump out right there is to emphasize that the buses are coming out here and taking a left to leave the school. Yeah, that's fun. Right, huh?
Well, are we talking about taking this bump out too? That bump?
That's the one that's going.
I don't really see this as a problem.
Not too bad. I mean,
It's
off of this.
An aesthetic issue maybe, but
Yes,
I
I agree.
I don't think, well, I don't know, maybe with the fire chief's blessing, the kids could paint it. They could turn it into a little character. We'll name it
So
Christian.
the
Name it Christian.
It should have been located maybe about here where I'm standing, right? That was where we changed it during the ASI process. Another option that we've considered is to basically have a planting bed go to this line here and end at about this cut in the sidewalk, and have another planting bed on that side to cut on that sidewalk, and leave this sidewalk path so that there's still some access to the parking lot. I don't think it totally gets rid of the problem, but it does kind of put the hydrant at the corner of the sidewalk instead of in the middle of this kind of larger expanse of sidewalk out here. Or the $5,300 credit to leave it as is. That bulb right there is another one that was going to be removed. So again, this was going to be handicap parking right here with the signs. And then that area further down was designed mostly for kitchen and delivery. But instead, if we take that bump out and put these 3 handicap spots right in this area, then we can utilize this area for parent drop-off as well. So that was the approach that the landscape architects in the district wanted to pursue. That's one of the areas where we need a new sidewalk. That's from the cafeteria doors. The fire chief wanted a continuous sidewalk from that pad to the sidewalk. The other small little piece is right by those stairs that go to the back of the stage. So that would be another little piece of concrete sidewalk. And then as Tim mentioned, there's another little piece of concrete sidewalk that would go up to that pump house building, that brick building there. And if you want, we could check out the playground or go into the school or whatever you want to do.
Playground.
Playground's pretty cool.
Did we check with the fire chief
New
to
mountain.
see if anything can be put around this?
We can. I have not yet.
I think we should. Because, we're looking at this is a fire hydrant, but, a little kid, they're running, I'm running away from somebody, I'm looking back, and then boom, I turn around and suddenly there's a fire hydrant.
Even those planters and something, I think it's fine, right? I don't want it moved, I think it's fine there. But,
I mean, we talked about this before when we toured.
Right,
so
yeah.
It's done, it's fine, breaking all this.
Right, but you're looking to have some sort of diversion from it.
Something that will not make it so easily accessible.
Right.
If somebody's running, tripping over it, and
right, you'd have to find out. I mean, because even if you did, 4 poles with chains around it, they could still fall into that too. So it's just a matter of something that would be less of an impact, I guess, than if they happen to run into it.
if you start throwing salt on this stuff.
Oh yeah. No, we already told them that.
They're not buying it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
once this is cleared, the sun will melt it.
Yeah.
So that's just that walk from there to the other one?
Yep.
That'll probably be concrete?
Yep.
Is it always gonna be concrete?
There was gonna be nothing.
There was gonna be nothing.
Because we just had the pad out there and we're just gonna grass.
That's more just for emergency. I don't know.
The fire chief wanted that surface.
That's awesome. It's gonna be a marker for teachers. They're gonna say, don't go past the fire hydrant. I guarantee.
I'll just send the whole school in here.
Because this is where the buses come, so they're, and the pickups over here. Just saying, the teachers are gonna say, don't go past the fire hydrant, stay right here.
All right, we're gonna take a short tour of the playground, then we'll head in and we'll vote.
Here, get that bug. Oh, there he goes. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Don't like bugs.
You have that beautiful blonde hair.
Yeah, I also think
I like that.
That's cool.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So sidewalk right here to the stoop.
And they saved those, which it's just so, once you're over in that area, it's so great that they saved them. They're great
Nice
trees.
and big, yeah.
I don't know why we planted those trees. Were they supposed to be a windbreak or something? Or we planted
These
those
evergreens?
when I was in 5th grade.
Oh,
We planted those.
Really?
Really?
That's great.
Yeah, it was like 43 years ago.
Yeah, rolling down the hill, sledding in the winter time.
Yeah, and this is all going to be covered. This part going to be covered, or that part going to be covered? What goes? Like we have that like weird like carpety stuff.
Yeah, a very limited amount.
The only part is right
Where
next
the
to the
slides.
slides, which is
Okay.
right at the top, on the other side.
So this part will be
here.
what?
This is just grass. And down there,
There's gonna be
I think
slides?
it's also just grass.
Over the next, oh.
You can see the mound up to it.
Oh,
That's
I see,
actually
yup.
that's the top of the slide.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Used to play. See, I used to play
Pretty,
softball right over there with
pretty
Mr.
unsafe
Is this
right
from
now.
West
Mr.
Street?
Petrus
Is
at
this the
recess.
swing set from
That's right,
West
or
Street?
kickball.
Yeah, because look at it's not brand new.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the swing set recycle from West Street, which is good. Nothing wrong
And if
with
the
it.
kids fall off, they land in gravel.
No.
Where's the new one that East Meadow purchased not too many years ago? What happened to that swing?
It's not this one.
It's that one.
Oh yeah, that was a bigger one than that. It was a regular size one.
Huh?
Oh yeah, no.
There's another one going over by the K through 2
There used to be
area.
one over there. So where did that one go? Did that get thrown away?
Oh, one from here, from East
Yeah, there
Meadow?
was
I don't
one
think we
here.
saved anything from East Meadow.
Wow, that
I
wasn't
think it was
caught that many
all-
years ago.
Really?
Really?
I think the only equipment
I think
they
that's
saw
when
worth
I
saving
think
was
when
West
Jen was
Street.
here. When Jen took over the first year or so, they purchased a new one. So that one went away.
Huh.
Wow.
I'll have to check
You must have
with
helped pay
Rachel.
for that PTO.
I remember when it was put in. It was put in by Katie Moriarty,
Yeah, it was put in over there.
and it was by a grant. But I know, and it wasn't that long ago. Definitely less than 10 years, like 8 years,
Way less
maybe.
than
Is that,
yeah.
it might be the one that
But
we're
I have a
reusing over
feeling
there.
it wasn't
Is it
thrown
smaller?
away.
I think we are reusing.
Reusing it, maybe it's just not
I
where
just
we
don't
can
have-
see it right
Do you have
now.
a
Well,
plan?
but it was this size.
Back there.
Yeah.
This is the one.
Here, is
that
this big?
This is from West Street.
Well, maybe this one's from East Meadow.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, maybe this is the one from East Meadow.
Right, because they were loose.
Oh,
Yeah, it must be
and
East
maybe the
Meadow.
one from West Street isn't over here yet. Maybe
There's
that's it.
another,
That's
there's
what
another
it is.
small one over on that side of the school. That,
There is?
I don't know
Okay.
if we
Probably
can't
the
see
one.
or hasn't been installed yet.
This is the
Right.
must have been
Another.
moved.
Bring
Well,
back
there you go. That
merry-go-rounds.
must be.
We used to have two
That
merry-go-rounds.
that makes sense. Yeah.
West Street.
Because it's a big one, yeah. And then the one at West Street's big too. That's gonna, if it hasn't come over here already, it's
Yeah, the
gonna
one that's
come.
been there a long time. Yeah.
Right, right.
Remember what's down here, Helen? Do you? There's gotta be something
I
there
don't remember
for grass,
either. We have to
or is
look
it
at the, what's on
the plan for, there's also areas that were strategically planned for, you know, just
rolling down the
later
hill.
equipment gets the.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to look at the plan.
That blue
We'll
box
take
or
an
something.
estimate. I don't know
Is this a little kid's thing, or is this still part of the same?
This is the bigger kid, 4 through.
And then we got a. Hey, we got a pool too. Look at this.
So this is where the slides is going. Yeah, very cool.
So this will be covered.
Yes.
This is
where
what gets the rubber.
the poured rubber
Yep.
surface will go over there.
What's all over here, Christian? What's gonna be in this spot?
I don't think anything.
grass?
I think this is just grass.
No, like kickball field, none of that stuff?
I've seen it in person.
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
I'll just make it as neat.
Yep.
Right, yeah, it's the same thing, yeah.
And then I think, right, I think this is a big climbing net structure. And then where the gravel is going to be a, like a little deck, a little circular deck with a tree growing through the middle of it.
Cool. Were these trees purchased locally? All these trees, you know?
I don't know where.
You don't know where
I
they?
don't think so. I think
Who
they
would-
came from a nursery in New Jersey. So
Uh-oh, they allow us to bring trees from New Jersey up here?
Regionally, yes, regionally. I believe that's where the landscape. Yes, I believe that's where the nursery
And
is.
those trees were left. Right?
Yes.
No, great.
Some of the ones in the front, though, that memorial trees, what happened with those that were planted against the building? Were those saved, or were those, no one knew anything and they got rid of them?
I don't know which ones those are. I mean, we saved the one that's in the courtyard now.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, there was a small one. I think the plaque's still on the wall. There was one of our former secretaries who died, Mrs. Burdick. She had it with, put in her name, and I think over on this end we put something there for Barbara Rule after she had died, the teacher. I don't know. But probably nobody knew that stuff or asked, and no one knew, so they did away with them, I guess. I know Jim Morrissey asked about it at one point. I don't know if anybody knew, but you guys surely don't know everything. Prior.
Sorry, that's not ringing a bell. Certainly if it was something that
There was
you guys
one
wanted
put-
preserved, we would
There
have
was
done
one
that.
put right near the front entrance on the left there. Kids purchased after I retired. So I don't know what happened with that one. It was like a, I don't know if it was a crab apple. It was I'm getting the name right now because they got one for my house too. Couscous?
Now it's going to be concrete.
Because it was, it was concrete.
Originally.
Originally, yeah. Yeah, it was concrete going out there.
So this is now the...
And what kind of fence is that going to be? Is that going to be connected with something?
Connected with something?
I mean, you know, so you can't walk through it?
Yes, yes, yeah. I
Yeah.
think, I don't know if it's
Chain link?
chain link or the vinyl clad chain link.
Yeah.
That's what I assume.
So the brick looks good, the windows look good.
Okay? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
windows
had to
look
break in all
great.
those ventilators there, right?
Yep.
They never worked anyway.
Yep. So this is where actually the cedar edging will go between these areas, where it's going between the grass surface and the
And
hard
these
pack
are staying,
surface.
these are staying asphalt, right?
These are staying asphalt.
So where's the
Already done.
Where's another question of concrete over here somewhere? they're
Exactly,
talking?
coming out of that connecting corridor. So this is going to be a small slide here, also with the rubber.
Yeah.
Just for just children's, the
I
smaller
think,
children's?
yeah, exactly. I think it's this area and maybe that one on the far side also.
Right.
So you mean the center?
Yeah.
Not out here.
Not out here. No, it's a difference between the lawn and I think that's like this hard packed gravel surface at the top of that. That's still being built up.
Not worth I don't know.
Skip makes better ones.
Whether they buy one, or they build one.
This is another small slide. That will be more of that rubberized surface on that fall area. And then that's the pad for the shed. And that's where the gate will go.
Are those new bushes?
Well, it's
Yep. New bushes.
in the fall you can.
What's that? No.
No.
Right.
They'll have a 1 year. They'll have a 1 year warranty, Lynn, so we can
You never know what can happen.
rip them out. Luckily. So this is where another sidewalk is going to go in the concrete from that egress door connecting to this sidewalk.
Shed like that's probably, I don't know. So another
sidewalk is right here. It's pretty cool, yeah. It's gonna be awesome. I still think it's just so funny, all the things that are considered dangerous today. We still have jungle and gym and crossbars. What are you kids walking on the top of the crossbars? You could probably do a merry-go-round as long as
The drive along, that's the whole thing.
So, does somebody want to make a motion to
Just everybody.
spend $17,868 on tack boards?
I make a motion to spend $17,868 on tack boards.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Okay, next, item number 127R. Actually, let's come back to that one because I think we have the most discussion on that. I think we're going to still have more discussion having toward the grounds. Go to number 134, cedar, edging, replacing the metal edging.
I make a motion that we accept the $10,249 for cedar.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
Can I ask a question? Did they look into using rubber edging? I know they're the experts, and they put forth cedar for a reason.
Right.
What was it?
I think that the cedar goes down deeper and it's just more robust. The rubber is shallow. This is going to be a 12-inch deep piece of cedar, so it
Separate.
will separate
Yeah.
and have a better longevity.
Yeah, having looked at a lot of lawn edging and never used any. You can tell if you look at my lawn. Yeah, the rubber stuff is kind of just tacked on top.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of item 134? Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Item 135, this is a gate in the fence. We have a motion to...
So moved.
Okay, second, anybody?
I second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, 127R, circulation, which includes not just circulation, but also putting in some sidewalk stuff in different places. Okay, I think that based on being out there, it still seemed like there were some differences of opinion, and I would just think that if people want to have a little bit more to say about it before we vote, that's okay.
Can we vote on the bump as a separate item from that?
Yeah, make it as a motion and I'll second it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to make a motion that these two items be divided. There'd be a vote on the bumpers, on the bump outs, and a second vote on the sidewalks. Let's put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, John, your
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
All right. All those in favor of separating those two items?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good. Okay, so we'll talk about the sidewalk stuff, the non-bump stuff first. Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor of the non-bump stuff?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Okay, bumps, go ahead.
Well, among other things, taking a look at it out there, you got 2 lanes of traffic, and then it goes to 1 lane, it goes to 2 lanes. But you only have 1 lane, right, where kids are being dropped off? You don't have kids being dropped off from 2 lanes of traffic coming in. They're only dropped off in 1 lane. So you only need 1 lane of traffic out there. If you're worried about the safety, and you want to pay attention to the safety, you ought to try some other simple things. For example, I said, make the space immediately on the other side of the bump a parking spot for Cheryl. All right, so there will be a car there. There'll be a car there when everybody comes in. It's much, much harder to say, oh, I bumped into that car by mistake, rather than say I bumped into a little piece. So there are other things like that, and I was impressed that people have talked about other traffic control measures which could be taken. And I think that whoever decided that that was a safety item, I think that that's good thinking.
I agree.
A question I didn't think of before. Is there an issue with the fire lane at all? I know at my school, we can't
yes.
have parking there, and there's a fire lane. Like right in front of the school, it's like...
It's a fire lane.
Yeah.
So Cheryl's car could never be parked there. So as a matter of fact, when pickup and drop-off happens, we're not supposed to park there until 10 minutes before schedule. Now, I know teaching the parents that didn't work out so well. I remembered it and I tried to follow suit, but it seems that it's gotten away from that. But in fact, the front lane is a fire lane. So like if you're a half hour early to pick up your kid, you're not allowed to park there. You're supposed to wait someplace else or other place in the parking lot.
Yeah, it raises
Just
an
saying.
interesting question. If a fire truck parks there and they want to move forward, do they have to pull out another lane, or are they going to drive over the bump, or what are they going to do? Anybody know?
They'd probably,
Go around it,
I would think they would have to, yeah.
Okay, so you don't need a parking. The thing is, though, that there are lots of things that can be done to say to people, don't get as close as you used to get.
You can put stripes there, no parking on the
Yeah.
ground, whatever.
Can we hear from anybody from the schools, just what Bill's saying and stuff like that? He's not here tonight.
I know, it's too bad Bill and the superintendent aren't here because they would be very.
Oh, John.
I mean. The other one.
By me. I'm anonymous. No, John, I hear you.
Yeah, it's too bad they're not here because I'm sure they'd have a lot to say about this, about the bump out. I believe that they would think it was a good idea to get rid of it.
I would like to correct the thought that it's a 2-lane. I'm not sure it's designed as 2 lanes. It's designed as a loop with one
lane
traffic flow.
So anybody who's in the inside one isn't supposed to be there in the first place.
No, there's
they're-
never 2 cars going
Right.
this way, never. It's 1 lane of cars always going through.
And it's always, what would that be?
Well, then just
Depending on how you're looking at it,
then another thing to try would just put a series of stripes right there, and no parking stripes. I mean, there's a lot of easy things to try.
Well, I wish you would have come to the pickup.
Can we just hear from
and
Sarah?
actually
I just like the school perspective before we.
Yeah. So the school perspective is,
Then there's no reason.
the problem we were trying to
that we still do
address
this one,
with parent
even though we're now
pickup
talking about.
at the new school is the fact that we have probably more parents than we've anticipated picking up kids. And the result was that when they stop at the bump out, they back up to 202. So now we're trying to train parents to come and pull forward, and without the bump out, we can line the cars up, and the same in the back, we can line more cars up at the curb, and, you know, to Andrea's point, we hand deliver kids. So we make eye contact with every parent that we're putting the kid in the car with. So as far as a safety perspective, that's how we're keeping kids safe. And then loading kids into the car. It's much different than when kids were walking to school or all the kids were taking buses and there was not the real threat of safety that we encounter, and the fact that we know every kid and every parent that the kid gets in the car with. So it's called hand-to-hand delivery. You know, the alternatives are make parents park and bring them into the school and hand deliver their kids in the gym or the cafeteria. It's less efficient, certainly. But yes, there are plenty of options to consider, but the idea is to get more cars into the drop-off or pickup lane and get more kids flowing more quickly into, so that we're not backed up to 202. That was the original problem we were trying to solve. And the fact that when we add when we add West Street here, we decided that we were gonna need another loading zone because we were already bumped out to 202. So another loading zone for 4 through 6 would allow parents to pick up, as they are doing now, in a line for 4 through 6, and then pre-K through 2 in front. So the problem to address was the traffic and the backing up to 202.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
So Cheryl, you want to get rid of the bump out, right?
Yes.
Can I ask a couple questions about that? I asked about 2 traffic lanes, and you said there's only supposed to be 1 traffic lane there. But the problem is that they're taking only 1 traffic lane, but they're moving it, they're swinging it on in close to the sidewalk and then having to swing it on out.
Oh, we can look at it right there, right? Where does it come out to 2 lanes? Is that what you're saying?
No, there's 2 lanes out.
There's a width of 2 lanes.
There's a width
There's
of
only
2
1
lanes.
lane, but there's a width of.
Yeah, and they're just driving in the wrong place in the 1 lane. And it seems, right? Because
No,
they're
we're
coming
trying to
in.
get the cars to the curb so that when the kids step into the car, it's basically from the curb to the car. We don't want kids stepping off the curb and then walking forward and getting into the car. So curb to door is, and we want that to be smooth and consistent. I don't know what that word is, because I have anesthesia brain, I'm sorry.
Continuous.
But continuous, thank you.
Right.
Yes, so when you break it, parents are stopping too soon, we're losing the ability to load probably 6 or 7 kids, and that's what's causing some of the backup and some of the traffic flow problem.
The other thing I was a bit uncomfortable with was, this was apparently designed as a safety feature. Nobody's been hurt, therefore we don't need the safety feature.
I don't think that's the thinking, John. It's just that it was prioritizing pedestrian access to the building. I personally think that having cars back up onto 202 is much larger of a safety issue than what this small bump out provides for pedestrians that occasionally use that sidewalk.
And also, the project is not just the elimination of the bump out, it's also taking apart the sidewalk that's next to the bump out and creating a dip in there for the handicap access, right?
Which is, right, just like what we have on that side of the building.
Or there still would be a ramp for handicap access. It would just be get rid of the bump out.
It's going to be in the middle of the sidewalk now, though. It's not going to be an extension of the sidewalk. It's
Right.
going to be in the middle of the sidewalk. So
But
when you're
it'll-
walking horizontally, you're going to walk down
Yeah.
into the ramp and back up onto the sidewalk. So you're
But
going to walk
it's
through the ramp.
identical to the ramps in the 4 through 6.
Sidewalks are
but this is the
designed
main-
like that all over the place,
this is
though.
the
That
main-
is how the sidewalks are designed.
This is the main entrance to the building, which is going to change design significantly by the taking of that away from the front of the building. It's going to be a significant...
disagree with you, Jim.
You're entitled to, but
I think we're ready.
it's going to be a significant different change in the front of the
I
building.
think we're ready to vote.
Disagree.
Okay, that's the right of the democracy.
Right, that's why I'm here.
You're only talking
Okay, before you vote,
3 grades
can I
picked
just
up out here.
make one other point?
K1, 2. That's
That-
all, right?
Pre-K, if they're, yeah.
Pre-K, but that's not every day, right?
And that's a different time.
No, well, okay, but K1, 2. K1, you're only talking 3 grades. 4 are gonna be over there, so there's no problem over
Times
there.
are 4, 5, 6.
And who, and I guess logistically, how do you do this? I've been gone too long. Who does all this?
So
Who puts-
the pair.
What a time thing was to put these people in now, come over here.
So
Yeah, you
there's
guys
two
should witness it. It's
I
pretty.
know, but why don't you, I mean, I should
Huge.
kid this wrong, but why don't you just make the parent pickup after the buses go? And maybe more people will ride the bus. Why not after it? And do away with this, have them pick them up all over there after the buses go. Then you have, maximize your potential of putting, you gotta put people here, you gotta put people there. Put people in one place. Because there's gotta be families that have a kid in 2nd grade and someone in 6th.
Right.
What do they do?
So
You
those
know?
would be, we would know in advance, and typically, we would expect that an older child may want to pick up their sibling. We hope that that's the family relationship that we're developing, and that then
And
they
these
would.
that are picking up are pretty much regular people?
Yes.
How about the ones who are sporadic?
Yeah.
How do you deal with those? Who are the sporadic?
Everybody knows the pattern, I guess,
Right. It's
um,
just, it's practice. We do it 5
I know,
days
but
a
it's gonna be a
week.
new one now when you're gonna have 2 places going.
Yeah, but it's,
One-
but the
the
concept's
first couple
not
days,
new.
it'll,
Yeah, I
people
know.
will figure it
First is
out.
always
We've
tough.
always had that pickup in the back. Like, I'm just saying, like, that was the pickup before.
I knew that, yes.
Right.
So
So-
what they've learned, what we've trained parents to do in the back, last year was they were pulling in forward, nose towards building, and then kids were getting in the car, then they were backing out, so we had like 4 cars pulled in with
Yeah.
kids trying to get in cars, and it was like, oh my God.
It was
So then we said, no,
not
time out,
safe.
we want you to wait, and we want you to pull up curbside, and then we will escort kids in. And it's still the same, but it's still the sight contact, hand to hand, but it's just safer.
Right.
The parent doesn't have to get out of the car, the parent actually, because we don't want the parent to get out of the car. If they're getting out of the car, they have to park and come into the office. And I understand that, it is labor intensive, but I don't think our job is to make it uncomfortable for parents. I think it's to make it safe and efficient.
This is-
Because dismissal happens within probably 6 minutes, and that's buses and cars. And so when we designed the bus, it was to keep the buses separate from the cars, and that is still consistent
And
with
how,
the changes.
taking out that bump out, what's that gonna do?
It
in
just
this
sends the
procedure?
signal that that line should be consistent, and then we can train parents to pull
all
much
the way
more
up to the
forward.
end. But why can't you train
Why
them
can't
that
we do
now
that
with
with
the
that?
bump out?
Because you've got, basically, you got a piece of architecture that's telling
Right,
you
that's
the
telling people
opposite,
to
so
stop.
like you have to, like,
So you train them in the beginning, go around,
Yeah.
go
All right, I
around.
gotta say, let's-
That's what we've been
all
doing.
right, let's vote.
I mean,
We're
that's
gonna
what
vote
we've
here,
been
because
doing.
all we're doing at
Right.
this point is disagree.
Yes.
Let's disagree
Let's
to
just
vote.
get it
Or
over
just
with.
clarifying things though, too.
Do we have a, did we have a motion and all that kind of stuff already? Motion on the bump, somebody wanna make a motion in favor of removing the bump?
I make a motion in favor of removing the bump.
Do we have a second? Second, okay.
I'm a voting member of this one, I can never remember.
Yes, you- okay,
I have a quick question.
yes.
The ramp that currently exists, looks like it's a different type of material, it's built in. Is it, I don't know how high it is if the sidewalk wasn't there or the concrete bump wasn't there. Is it something that can be kept the way it is even after the removal of that bump?
You would still put the ramp in, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, can the ramp
And the
be there?
textured
Because
surface?
what you mentioned earlier, you know, if you dig it into the existing sidewalk, that's a different story. But if the existing ramp can be kept where it is after removing the concrete,
No, it
exterior-
has to pull back.
Okay.
Because the whole idea is to create a single
Straight line.
line of stackable cars to maximize the number of
All
cars you can get
right,
off.
so we have the motion, we have a seconded motion. All those in favor of removing the bump? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those in favor of keeping the bump?
I'm sorry, all in favor of removing the bump?
Actually, all those against it, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you're against it.
If we're against,
Keeping it the way it is.
If you're against, the motion was to remove the bump.
okay.
Right.
So if you're opposed to that motion, now you can raise your hand. All right, so the motion, that's a tie.
Right.
Motion loses. Tie loses.
We can't do it again? When
No.
John and,
You could theoretically bring it up, but I think
Called
that's,
the motion
that
to
may be,
reconsider.
Can I ask you one question, Mark?
Yeah.
Mr.
Can I
Sullivan
vote?
No.
and Bill.
Okay.
you're not appointed and you can't have a proxy.
Sullivan can't
Even
vote,
though
why
I'm
does she
your
vote?
replacement and this is an appointed board for the selectmen?
Unless you were appointed to the board, and you went and signed a card. If you did that, then you're a member of the committee. But if you're just sitting in for Chris tonight, if you were not nominated and appointed to this, then you're not a member of the committee.
Okay, I just wanted to ask the question,
That's a good question.
because I could break the tie either way.
Um,
Well, I just tried to help everybody.
Mr. Justice Kennedy?
Under here, who goes in the traffic circle, I did what I could.
all right, so, all right, and I mean, yes, theoretically, it could be brought up again when there are more people, if time is not an issue. If it's an issue, then it's a dead issue.
Well, I think there's something that we should talk about, because it isn't just black and white. If you're gonna remove the bumps, if you voted to remove the bumps, then this wouldn't be an issue. But because you wanna do the other changes
Yes,
and not remove the bumps,
we have to get another price.
well, we do have to get pricing, but that's not the issue. The issue is, part of the change was relocating the handicap parking spaces on the west side of the building
Yeah,
out into the parking lot, which meant moving signage and striping and so forth. If you're not removing bump outs, they could stay where they are, or do you want to keep this bump out the way it is, but take out that bump
I
out?
thought we were just voting on that
I
one.
thought we were voting just on that one.
Yeah, I thought that's what the vote
It
was,
sounded
just
as
that bump
if
out.
it was
That's how I-
singular bump out.
Oh,
so you
okay,
might
my
be-
mistake.
But
Never
that-
mind.
So this
So then
bump out
leave
will
these bump
go,
outs.
and that will be
well,
another
that'd be a
drop-off
separate
area.
motion. That motion wasn't clear enough. I thought we were voting on all the bump outs.
So did
Oh, I
I.
thought-
So did I.
Well, I make a motion that we, keep the bump out there. Is that what you're suggesting, that we should be able to get rid of it?
Get rid of those bump outs.
Get rid of those,
No,
okay,
it's just
so.
one bump out.
Yeah,
Right.
there's just one.
The one
Okay,
that's
so
on.
let's make a second motion clear on that. I make a motion that we remove that bump out
Is
in
there
the
a?
back of the
All right,
building.
anybody have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. So everybody understands, that would be the bump out there. The reason would be that buses can,
Parents.
parents can line up better
Parents
out
can line
there.
up again.
That one out there really doesn't serve that much of a purpose.
It was really just to delineate the drop-off delivery area from the handicap parking spots. It's just kind of an island to separate those two, and
We're gonna
because
move
we're
those.
moving the handicap spots just into the parking lot, right by where the electric car charging stations are, because some of those will be handicapped. it's not a safety issue. That's not a traffic calming measure.
So we're moving the handicap parking places farther away. Is there any, what are the considerations on that?
Well, they're immediately the first spots away from
the most convenient.
Yeah, they're still the most convenient spots, and there's now going to be a place to plug in your electric car. So if you're handicapped and you have an electric car, you're
in a good spot.
But the first two are gonna be handicap, then the next 4 spots will be EVs, right? That's the way
Yeah, but there'll be other, also, the handicap spots are gonna be the ones here, and then the charging stations are coming along here, but then the other spot here is handicapped, this one's handicapped, so the spots
Just
closest to
the
the
drawing
building.
that I showed you from these guys,
Okay, what's the same as the drawing that I made out there?
that you were tracing over, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
There are 3 of them out there now?
3 handicap spots?
3 handicap spots?
Yes.
And they'll just get moved across.
So we'll still be in compliance with ADA and all that.
Totally.
Yes. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any more comments on that? All those in favor of moving that bump, raise your hand. All those opposed? 1 bumper.
I've been called worse.
Me too. So, and the last thing we have to decide on is the fire hydrant, whether it's gonna be moved or whether they're gonna accept the credit on that. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we move the fire hydrant.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of moving the fire hydrant, if you're in favor of moving the fire hydrant, raise your hand. If you are opposed to moving the fire hydrant, raise your hands. All right.
I abstain.
What if you don't care?
Fire department, then you don't vote, and the motion carries. All right, so that's it. Do we have a motion to, actually, we should set another meeting if we need another meeting?
The motion.
I think the motion failed.
I thought we were talking.
Motion failed.
Release the fire hydrant.
Where did we end up with dedication?
The fire hydrant
Stays where it is.
Stays.
stays.
Fire hydrant stays as is.
Yes,
Fire hydrant stays where it is, yes.
The motion failed.
yes.
Okay, sorry.
Right.
Forgot to say.
I should have made the motion for like an affirmative, but yes,
Okay.
what I voted for.
Right.
Makes me like 3 for 4.
It'll be clear in the minutes.
All right, so that stays. What do we need to meet for next, if anything?
Dedication.
Dedication, we were talking about the date, and we were talking about whether or not it was gonna be during the day, inviting the MSB
Hey.
or AA board.
Yeah, so I've reached out to the MSBA, I've let them know when it's gonna be. I haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay.
I'll make a note to myself to give them a call tomorrow. We should have,
What was the date you proposed?
I have it, hold on. I dropped all my paperwork, so it's not in order, give me a minute.
Yep.
So we had said the last time that we were gonna do, schedule the MSBA,
September 17th?
the 17th to the 28th.
The last 2 weeks
The
of
last 2 weeks
September.
in September. And I emailed them on the 15th, and I haven't heard back, so, I will follow up.
All right. So we will need to meet again sometime between now and then. So I don't think we will set a date then.
Is there anything we need to vote on before school opens? Do we have to accept, does the committee have to accept the building before school opens?
No, the architect will issue, certificate of substantial completion. The local jurisdictions will tour the building, the health department, the police, fire department, and sign off. The building official.
Didn't we do that when we took over the?
It did because you only took over partial building. It was just a temporary TCO, and so you'll get a certificate of occupancy for the entire building.
So we don't have to vote on anything. We get what we get.
You get what you get. If there's anything that comes up that, but not as a standard procedure at this point.
I won't ask any tough questions.
And Mark, before you adjourn, I got a question that Chris asked me to ask, so I don't know when you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay, on the original plans for the sign, there was 2 conduits out there, one for power and one for data. And that was to connect the sign to the network. And now Chris told me that it's running by cellular now, So it's creating a reoccurring monthly bill versus,
Actually, it's good that you brought that up.
okay.
So, as part of the question was asked, hey, what do you want to do? It was responded that, yeah, let's just go with the cellular thing because it has some advantages versus the hardwired, that they could do it remotely.
You can do it remotely as long as you connect to the network.
Okay, so anyway, but just let me continue.
Okay.
So they have a 5-year, no cost for that cellular connection. We found out today during our job meeting that for about $900, you'd get a lifetime, no additional cost. So what we did not have installed, and we would have to pay for if we wanted to have it hardwired, is a fiber line
That's
from the
correct.
building.
720 feet, because we already looked at it.
Yeah, so you need fiber because it's over 350, you can't have the Cat 5e. So there's a cost to that.
Right.
So there is kind of a, what do you want to do? Do you want to change what you have to pay $900, have a lifetime, no cost?
And that's cellular, right?
That's cellular.
Does that depend upon Comcast?
No, that's not through Comcast,
Not through
that's
Comcast,
through the Watchfire, the company, the signage company itself. Or you pay and have a fiber line run, and I don't know if there is a component of the sign that has to change to accept the fiber versus the cellular, the controller within the sign. And there may be a cost to that as well, I don't know.
I imagine just to run the fiber alone is gonna be more than $900.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Just barely off Griffiths, doesn't it?
yeah. But that's the question he wanted to ask, because he wanted to know why he's gonna get a monthly bill versus the original thing was no bill. That's why the town paid to put both out there.
So now we're gonna have no bill, but it'll be $900.
$900 one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before, other than that, as it is right now, you weren't gonna pay anything for 5 years, then you'd start getting
Then you'd start
$6 a month or whatever,
Yep.
you know, whatever it is in 5 years from now.
Well, he told me it was $40 a month.
And 5 years from now, it'll be 200.
Right, that's
The other
what,
thing is 5 years from now, you don't even know what you're gonna have. For
Well, that's it.
technology.
The technology could change and there could be a new, it could be like Bluetooth
Yeah.
or something. You do it remotely.
Could be Cheryl just touching it and it magically.
Right.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Use your son.
Puts on a helmet, thinks what should be out there,
Yeah.
and we're there.
So I'll tell you about
I
the
do
car
that
charging
already.
station. Tesla's wireless car charger.
but
Second.
let's put the charging station, they're gonna go hydrogen or something.
Yeah.